You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Moving on, and let's talk about Pakistan and talk about their chances and how they'll go about things in this T20 World Cup. Their captain is Babar Azam. Pakistan have won a T20 World Cup. That was back in 2009. And in the T20 World Cup in 2022, they were runners-up in the final to England. And they were able to make it to the final in the last T20 World Cup. Pakistan, runners-up in 2022, but can they go all the way in 2024? That's the question. And Pakistan lately have been they haven't been really performing well in T20s. They've been a bit up and down. In the lead up to this T20 World Cup, they lost to Ireland by 5 wickets. In a series in Ireland recently, they lost by 5 wickets, but they went on to win the T20 series 2-1, but they did lose that game against Ireland. And the T20 series against England, they've been quite poor in that series in England. In the lead up to this T20 World Cup, they have been very poor. They haven't been quite performing at their best. And obviously, a few months ago, they had a T20 series against New Zealand, and they drew that series 2-2 in the best of 5 over in Pakistan. So Pakistan, yes, as we're accustomed with Pakistan, very hit or miss, very inconsistent. And going into this T20 World Cup, there's a lot of question marks over whether or not they'll qualify for the Super 8s and whether or not they'll make it all the way. But with Pakistan, they've got this ability to, come back, and we've seen that in the World Cups. We saw that in the T20 World Cup in 2022. They didn't quite play well, and then they came back, and then they made it to the semi-finals and then qualified for the final. And then in the 50-over World Cup last year in India, obviously didn't quite perform well, obviously. They were very disappointed up front. They lost games early on in the World Cup, and then they were trying to come back, and it was a little bit too late, and then they missed out. So for Pakistan in this T20 World Cup, they can't afford to do that. They can't afford to start off on the wrong notes. They've got to really hit the ground running. Obviously, Babar Azam is back as captain. He obviously relinquished the captaincy. He wasn't the captain anymore of the Test side or the One Day, or I think he was still captain of the One Day side. But the T20 side, he wasn't captain. That was given to Shaheen Shah Afridi. And now going into this T20 World Cup, Pakistan have decided to give the captaincy back to Babar Azam, hoping that things would change in their favour. It just sort of is the way with Pakistan cricket. It's a bit up and down and a bit chaotic on and off the field. But you would think, based on their current form, they may struggle, but based on their qualities and against the other teams in Group A, obviously they've got Ireland, Canada, and the US. You would think they should win those games against those teams. The game against India will obviously be a big one. Of course, that's in New York. That will be a big game for them. But they may lose that game against India because obviously India have a good record against Pakistan in ICC events. So I won't be surprised if that game goes India's favour. But you would think Pakistan should do enough to qualify. But with Pakistan, as we've said, you never know with Pakistan because they're a bit hit or miss. As I said, they need to start well. They need to really start well. Their first game of the tournament, Pakistan, is against the USA. And that game will be important for Pakistan in terms, okay, you're versing the USA. It's a game that you should win comfortably. They really need to hit the ground running in that game. They need to start well, Pakistan. The problem that Pakistan have had in tournaments is they don't start well. Often they lose the first game, they lose the first couple of games, and then everything goes backwards. So I think for Pakistan, they really need to really hit the ground running, start well. That first game against the US would be critical, and then obviously the big game against India after that. and hopefully that will set them up nicely. Obviously, with Pakistan, they were the last team to name their squad for this T20 World Cup. Obviously, they got a new coach in Gary Kirsten. Obviously, Babar Azam back as captain. So it just shows a lack of unity and cohesion within the camp. Not everyone's sure about their roles or not sure about anything really in terms of that. You want a team that's really united and got that cohesion and unity. You don't want a team that's all over the place, not sure of what we're going to do. That's a little bit with Pakistan at the moment. They weren't sure about their squad. They named it up until the last minute. Obviously, Gary Kirsten is the new coach, and obviously Babar Azam back as captain. So there's a lot of things that are a little bit haywire off the field there for Pakistan, a little bit. Obviously, they need the senior players to stand up. Obviously, Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan's partnership will be key. Obviously, it is, when those two bat with each other, they get off to good starts for Pakistan. But when they fail, Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan, Pakistan don't tend to do well after that. The batting seems to drop off and puts a lot of pressure on the rest. So I think everyone in the team needs to stand up. And as I mentioned before, Pakistan really need to start on the right note because they can't afford to start this tournament off on a bad note. So that first game against the US will be key for them in terms of let's get off to a good start. It's a game that we should win against the USA. Let's put in a very solid performance, and then hopefully that will translate into bigger and better things as the tournament progresses. So with Pakistan, be interesting to see if they do make it all the way to the semi-finals. But you never know. That's what they did in 2022. They could do the same again in 2024. It depends whether or not they can be consistent and whether or not they can put in a complete performance. That's the question that Pakistan will have to answer going into this T20 World Cup. That's the question that they have to answer in terms of, can we be consistent? Can we put in good performances across the board? So for Pakistan, they've got a team, full of players that are skilled in T20 cricket. They've got the capabilities. It's just a little bit of self-belief that they need, a bit of consistency and hit the ground running and make sure that we start the tournament off on a good note. If they do that, then you never know. They could do what they do in previous World Cups and come back and, produce some good performances and do what they did in 2022 and make it to the final. So we'll have to wait and see with Pakistan in terms of how they're going to progress there. But it'll be interesting to see how they go in this T20 World Cup. Hi, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast YouTube channel and click the bell so you don't miss out on all our episodes and live streams from the ICC T20 World Cup for 2024. If you're watching or listening to this episode on YouTube, let us know in the comments your thoughts on how Pakistan will go in this ICC T20 World Cup for 2024. We would love to hear what you have to say.